Hey everybody. Just saying hi. I'm gonna start this wonderful little thing where I'm going through all the different teams. You know, Yahoo has started it. You're going through all the off seasons of all the worst teams up to the best teams, depending on off season. I'm gonna go with the best team first, and of course, the best team is the Mets. Feel free to send many comments underneath that say, "Oh my goodness, the Mets are so terrible." But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some of the moves that all the teams have made. And when you think of the Mets, you're like, wait, they've made moves besides, that big R.A. Dickey thing? Yes, they've made some moves. What the biggest glaring problems for the Mets going into this season was that they have no money. That's actually the biggest problem for the Mets. So, for a fan base who's from New York, so they expect people to spend money, instead, we're looking at Moneyball instead. We're looking to try to find the most cost-efficient team we can put on the field, especially seeing as Sandy Alderson has built it so that the future is where we'll contend. Obviously, he said he's not going to punt this season. He said that last season, and guess what? We didn't end up in the basement at all. We weren't even last, and I said we wouldn't be. I said, listen, we're not going to be last. We're not going to lose 100 games. Don't doom and gloom. And I'm going to say that again this year. We're not going to be last. We're not going to lose 100 games. Don't doom and gloom. Now, we were in the playoff hunt until the All-Star game last season. Will we do that again this season? Probably not. The thing was, we had R.A. Dickey, who was brilliant last season. He was a Cy Young Award winner. So, now we don't have the Cy Young Award winner. We have a former Cy Young Award winner who we're hoping will pitch like a former Cy Young Award winner, hopefully, who will pitch like he did at the beginning of last season. That'd be great. But, at this point, it's a little shady as to what we've got. Now, Mets fans were okay with what we have in the infield. The infield's fine. We love David Wright. We all like Ike. And Tejada and Daniel Murphy both did a good job. Probably better than half the other guys we trotted out on the team. We wanted to make an upgrade at catcher, and Sandy Alderson was able to do that. He was able to do that without spending money on a 36-year-old, 39-year-old catcher, which is what the free agency list was this year, besides Mike Napoli, but ask the Boston Red Sox about his hips. No, he was able to bring in what is thought as a can't-miss prospect for catcher. And then we got John Buck, who will keep the seat warm until that happens. So, sometime around noon, we will have a top-flight catcher. That's what I'm hoping for. And looking at what Travis Deneau has done through his career in the minors, looks like a pretty reasonable bet. Sandy Alderson was also able to send, unfortunately, R.A. Dickey out to Toronto and get one of their best pitching prospects, who should slot in there with Matt Harvey, who's already in the majors, and Zach Wheeler, who's up there. He should slot in a year or two, and he should be, maybe we'll have a big three. There's Moneyball for you. Zito, Mulder, Hudson. And we'll have Harvey, Wheeler, and Syndergaard. Huh? Would be nice. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about this season. This season, the outfield is the issue. The bullpen was the issue last season. I think Sandy Alderson's okay with where the bullpen is this year. He'd love to bring in a veteran guy, and there's more than enough guys left where he can bring in a couple of them on minor league contracts or small major league contracts to make a difference. I don't think that's a huge deal. I think we'll see some good stuff from Yurish Familia, Henry Mejia, Colin McHugh, Jeremy Hefner, all those guys. Some of those guys will get slotted into the bullpen, and really that's where the best bullpen guys come from. a lot of them don't come from free agency. A lot of them come either because they were groomed all the way up, or they're just guys, starters that, didn't have a spot. So they moved into a different position, and all of a sudden, voila, legitimate bullpen guys. Bobby Parnell's going to be fine in the eighth inning. In fact, he's really great in the eighth inning. Don't put him in the ninth, but he's great in the eighth inning. And Frank Francisco, as long as he's healthy, will just make outs, or he'll get outs. He'll also make outs. He'll get outs in ninth and most of the time, and whatever. We're not a contending team. We don't need a closer. We just need guys who can get outs. And I think he can do that for the most part. But it's that outfield that's the issue right now, and it's questionable. Now, I've read some reports that Alderson isn't going to do anything more with the outfield. I think maybe he's kicking the tires on some trades. I looked at Brendan Bosch earlier in the season. That kind of player. A player who was good and maybe is a year removed from it. Not really a player who could be good. I don't want one of those. Because, frankly, we've got 6 of them. That's what I'm saying. Sandy Alderson is trying out 6... I need another finger. 6 different outfielders, and I'm fairly certain he hopes that 2 of them will stick. And that maybe a Den Decker or a Pulio or someone like that from the farm system will come up and take that last position. Now, right now, we're looking at outfielders like Mike Baxter, Colin Cowgill, Lucas Duda, Kirk Neuenhuis, and Jordani Valdespin mixed in there. They just signed Andrew Brown to try to mix in there. All those guys are guys who have never had a full year to play. We saw Kirk Neuenhuis, we saw Lucas Duda, we saw Mike Baxter in extended play, but they didn't have the full year. We didn't see Duda and Neuenhuis in the full year because they went right after the All-Star break. Now, Neuenhuis still ended up with like a .263 batting average, which is just as good as the guys that were brought in. However, all these guys have talent, and all these guys have the potential to be an everyday outfielder. None of them are going to be all-stars. Maybe, but most likely none of them will be all-stars. So what Alderson wants to see is 1 or 2 of them become everyday players. And I think that's not an unreasonable idea. I think out of this group, 2 of these guys might be regular players. We'll have to see. It would be nice. Likely, I was looking around in the outfield right now, and people are like, rah, 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 rah. Listen, what's your best option? Delman Young? And if you sign Delman Young to a 3-year contract, that's not an upgrade. That's a liability. So I wouldn't go in that direction. No sirree, Bob. And Michael Bourne, we were never in on Michael Bourne. In fact, if you look, he's still a free agent. You know why? Because A, he's a Scott Boras client. B, he requires a supplemental draft pick to be taken away from you. And C, because he's a Scott Boras client, he's going to be more money than he's actually worth. And we don't even have money. So he's obviously not an option. Everyone said, oh, it looks like that would be a great outfield right there. There we go. We'd be a contending team. No, we wouldn't. We'd have no money. We'd have somebody who are paying much more money than we should have. We'd have a Jason Bay contract. You want that, right? No, you don't. So be quiet. Otherwise, it is what it is. So we'll see Jordani Valdespin, we'll see Kirk Neuenhuis, we'll see Lucas Duda, we'll see Colin Cowgill, we'll see Mike Baxter. Some of those guys will shake out. Hopefully, maybe he can pull a trade, some great trade to pull in Jason Kubel, or I don't know, somebody who's available. Even Vernon Wells, as long as they eat like all the contract, and we can just do one of those Jerry Hairston Jr. Gary Matthews Jr. Thank you. We can do one of those Gary Matthews Jr. deals where it's like, oh yeah, we'll bring him in, see if he works, and if not, we'll kick him to the curb. That's what we should do with somebody like a Wells. Maybe we can get him and they pay all of it. Maybe we get something else. Maybe we don't. listen, guys, we're going to be in for an interesting season. If Harvey, and then when Wheeler he comes up, if they pitch lights out, if they do Dontrell Willis on you, that great rookie season, who knows? We might be just outside the playoffs. We might be looking to bring in whoever Arizona doesn't trade, whoever's out there on the trade market. You never know. So, overall, I would have liked to have seen a guy who had played at the major league level brought in for the outfield, but so it is. Moving Dickey also makes a big hole in the rotation, which before Dickey moved out was fine as it was. Now, I was looking at the guys, and there's a lot of nice names that are still out there. I was looking at guys like Sean Markham. Actually, I really like Sean Markham. If he can pass a physical, I'd take him in a heartbeat. Sean Markham has had a 3.5 so-and-so ERA in the AL and in the NL every year that he's pitched that he's been healthy. And then he's had about 3 years where he hasn't been healthy, which, is kind of rough. Like, if he will take a 2-year deal, Sandy Alderson give him a 2-year deal. Because that is a number 2 starter. That's a number 2 or a number 3 starter. And right now, we have a number 1-ish starter in Santana. We have a number 3-ish starter in John Neese. We have a number 5-ish starter in Dylan G, as long as he's healthy. And we have a number question mark starter in Matt Harvey. And then we have nothing else. You know where I was missing a slot? Number 2, Sean Markham. Still available, still good. If not, maybe we bring in a Jeff Karstens and he battles with some of these guys, some of the younger guys, a McHugh, a Hefner, somebody like that. And if he earns the spot, great. And when we bring up Wheeler, he's pitched out of relief, that'd be great. I'd go with that. There's some other guys kicking the tires. Joe Saunders I like, but not for 3 years. Not for 2 years. If he's willing to take a 1-year deal, yes. But he's not willing to take a 1-year deal. And then there's some other names that are kicking around that would be serviceable. I really don't want to see Carl Pavano. I really don't want to see a guy like that who's past his prime and maybe he'll be good. I'd much rather take a Chris Young. I'd much rather take something like that. Something we know and someone we know we can get at least 5 good innings out of. So, Sandy Alderson, great trade. I love it to death. It'll make us great in a couple of years. This year, I would have liked to see you sign a major league contract with somebody. But it is what it is. If we're not going to contend this year, or if we're going to try to contend with the least payroll, why are we bringing in expensive, overpriced veterans? No reason. And that's what I have to say. So, if you're a Mets fan and you think that was terrible and it's horrible and we should, evict the Wilpons and get $100 million like the Dodgers and just throw it at whoever we want, leave a comment. If you're totally with me, like and subscribe, baby. Yeah!